could it be? But me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to this LouieTeeNetwork exclusive bombshell trade in the National Football League on a Sunday, no less. These things usually take place during the course of the weekdays. We actually get a bombshell on a weekend, and this is the second time in what has been a very busy and crazy offseason in which players are switching teams like we switch underwear. This fits in line with what we've seen this offseason. We had a bombshell trade on a Saturday earlier this offseason. I believe the Stafford trade, if I'm not mistaken, was done on a Saturday evening. I think it was a Saturday night, as a matter of fact. So we've seen these things take place this offseason, and this has been a unique offseason unlike any other, where we've seen a ton of trades, player movement, big names, switching teams. Here's another one. Julio Jones. We've talked about this ad nauseum for quite some time, especially on the LouieTeeNetwork podcast, that this was a realistic possibility. As a matter of fact, this was going to happen. The Atlanta Falcons don't even have enough money to sign their draft picks, so they were going to have to do something. This move was going to happen. It was imperative. Julio Jones had already made it known he wasn't going back to Atlanta, whether the Falcons liked it or not. That was done on Undisputed on national television, much to the dismay of the Falcons and really the entire National Football League. They didn't like how that situation went down, but it happened, and it really put the Falcons in a corner. They were going to trade him anyway. All that did was it maybe fast-tracked and expedited the process a little bit. But nonetheless, there were a lot of teams that were involved in the process of trying to figure out what it was going to take to get Julio Jones out of Atlanta. I told you I thought it was going to be an AFC team, but I've been wrong all offseason about these things. You know, I thought that Matthew Stafford was going to be traded to an AFC team. Well, he's still in the NFC. So, but that one made more sense because the GM that took over in Detroit left L.A. with the Chargers or Rams. And so there was this whole thought process of, hey, you know, he was a part of the brain trust that drafted, you know, Jared Goff #1 overall. So forth and so forth. This is a lot different. The Falcons don't want to see Julio Jones, you know, once nor twice a year. They don't want to keep him in conference. So I felt like it was going to be an AFC team, whether it was Baltimore or it was the Chargers or the Indianapolis Colts, or, you know, I said don't rule out New England or Tennessee, but I didn't think the Titans had enough cap space to make this work. You know, we went over the cap numbers and where all these teams sat, you know, prior to or post June 1, and the Titans were somewhere in that $3 million range. I think, let me take a look at my, list and see what the Titans are. Yeah, $3.3 million for the Titans. So I just didn't think they had enough cap space, but you know how it is in this league. Teams are able to finagle things. They're able to move some money around, restructure some deals. They'll figure it out. If you want a guy bad enough, you'll figure out a way to make it work. And obviously the Titans are going to do that when this becomes official. And it looks like it's imminent. It feels like this is a done deal. The Titans are going to land themselves a game-changing wide receiver. They lose Corey Davis in the offseason. He's now a New York Jet. I laughed about them replacing Corey Davis with Josh Reynolds. And that was one of my running jokes this offseason is that, hey, look, it's Josh Reynolds. I mean, I like Josh Reynolds. I don't love Josh Reynolds. There's only so much you can do, you know, with Josh Reynolds. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. Now, all of a sudden, you know, you lose Khalif Raymond, you lose Corey Davis, and you replace those guys with Julio Jones. That changes things significantly. So for me, I look at this whole situation and I say to myself, the Titans definitely upgraded their football team. They are a lot better because of this move. And you got to think that they're going to be a prohibitive, I won't say favorite in the AFC. Obviously, you still got the Chiefs and you got Buffalo and you got teams that we perceive to be much better. I think they're the prohibitive favorite to win the AFC South now, though. With all the issues with the Texans, they look to like they're going to stink again. The Indianapolis Colts, we don't know what Carson Wentz is going to bring to the table in Indianapolis. We don't know. So I'd like to think that the Titans now, with this addition here, with already having the best running back in football, 2,000-yard rusher from a season ago, King Henry, and A.J. Brown, who's a young and up-and-coming emerging stud at the receiver position, who has his idol is Julio Jones. That's why he wears the number 11. This guy was practically begging the Titans organization to go and get Julio Jones. He was practically begging Julio Jones to choose Tennessee as if he had a choice. And so, in my mind, I honestly don't know how this isn't a perfect fit for the Tennessee Titans. It just makes too much sense for me. And I think they're the prohibitive favorites in that that division now. And to me, with this deal, there's no excuse for them not to win the division if he's healthy. Now, that's been an issue for Julio Jones in his career, is health, and especially of late. He's been a guy that hasn't been all that healthy. So this is a big move for him. It's a reset for him in his career, late in his career. We don't know how many years he has left, but for me, I think he's got at least 2 or 3 really good years left in the tank. So if that's the thought process, the Titans feel like they're right there on the cusp of doing something big. They need a push over the top. They won the division last year. They hosted a home playoff game and got ousted by Baltimore. The year before that, they were in the AFC Championship game. So they think they're close. This is the kind of move you make when you think you're close, because he's the type of player that could potentially put you over the top. So it's a big move for the Titans. It looks like it's going to be a second-round pick. That's going to be the basis for this trade, the nucleus, the foundation, if you will. Now, there's debate as to whether it's a 5th-round pick, also going with Julio, the second-rounder in exchange for Julio, or if there's going to be a swapping of late-round draft picks or so. So we'll find out more about the details of this deal as to, the specifics. However, a second-round pick is definitely changing hands here, and the Titans are going to come off of a second-round pick more likely than not in the 2022 NFL draft. And we said that the Falcons more likely than not weren't getting a first-round pick for Julio because they've been pushed into a corner here. They have to move him. They don't have a choice. This is not optional. If they do not do this, they have a problem. So we knew this was going to happen. Now the question becomes, for the Atlanta Falcons, how well does their offense perform? Now, we saw glimpses last year with Julio out for 6 games and Calvin Ridley essentially taking over as the number 1 and dominating. He went over 1,000 yards pretty much without the help of Julio Jones for, let's call it 40% of the season. So I think the Falcons looked at that situation. They also drafted Kyle Pitts, which helps a hell of a lot. And they say to themselves, we got stuff. We should be fine. We're going to find out, though, truly, if Calvin Ridley can survive by himself. It's one thing to do it for a 2 or 3 week stretch. It's another thing when teams just say, okay, there is no Julio to worry about. All we got to concentrate on now is stop at 18. You stop 18. Now, Kyle Pitts is going to cause some problems, and he's going to be a whole different animal to contain at the tight end position, and they're going to flex him around and move him all about that formation, or the field, I should say, in various formations. However, it's different when you got Julio Jones on the outside and you got to worry about him. So it'll be interesting to see how they are able to offset this loss. But this was a necessary evil for the Atlanta Falcons, and now they are in a much better cap position with this move. And I think when it's all said and done, I don't feel like the Atlanta Falcons were going to win anything of note anyhow, with or without him. So I think their chances are lesser now without Julio Jones, obviously. But I didn't think they were going to win anything of substance with him in the lineup anyway. So, an era comes to an end in Atlanta. They made a big deal, a blockbuster deal to go up and get him in the draft almost 10 years ago now. And now they part ways with a guy that has only known one franchise his entire career, and Julio Jones now being shifted off to Tennessee with the Titans. So let's get a couple of comments and then we'll move out of here. And somebody asked, what number will A.J. Brown wear? I don't know. He's already said, I will give up 11 gladly. Who's to say Julio even wants 11? You know, Julio may say, nah, I'm good. You keep 11, I'll get something else. He may say, nah, I'm 11. Let me get 11 and you go find something else. We'll see what happens. But A.J. Brown has already said he'll gladly give up 11 to get Julio in Tennessee. So now that it has come to fruition, let's see if he makes good on that promise or not. But one thing's for sure, when you look at that Tennessee Titans offense and you see all the things that they have, I look at them and I say, man, there's a ton of talent in Tennessee between Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, and Derrick Henry. And I still think they have some undeveloped talent there as well in Tennessee. Some young guys that they've drafted over the last 2 years or so that have underwhelmed, but there's talent there that if they can get those guys to perform at the level that they expected when they drafted them, that could be a scary team, man. I'm a big Ferkser fan, so I think they've got some stuff at tight end, even though they just lost their tight end to the New England Patriots in free agency. I really like what the Titans have done here. This is a big move offensively, and now you get two bona fide studs on the outside. That's essentially what you've done. It's going to open up the middle of the football field, and it's going to give you a lot more space to operate inside. So, like I said, I like Ferkser, you know, and I like some of the tight ends that they may be able to get the football to. Despite losing Jonnu Smith, I think they're going to be able to open up some more opportunities for the middle of the football field. And it also takes, and this is probably the most important part of this entire deal, is with the way they run the football in Tennessee. You can't put that eighth defender in the box. If you do, you run the risk of giving Julio one-on-one on the outside or A.J. Brown one-on-one on the outside. It's essentially pick your poison now in Tennessee. You know, it wasn't that way before. You could get away with, you know, rolling the dice and saying, all right, we're going to put that eighth defender in the box, and if you want to throw it up to A.J. Brown or Corey Davis, knock yourself out. You're really pushing it now if you decide to do that, leaving Julio and or A.J. Brown one-on-one outside with a corner. Good luck. You know, Julio can still run, and A.J. Brown is sneaky fast, but even if he's not able to get behind that receiver, he can body that guy up and go up and get the football. Both of these receivers can. So it's a scary proposition out there in Tennessee now. And I'm looking at the rest of that division. We don't know what the Jaguars are going to be, you know, with Urban Meyer taking over and them getting Trevor Lawrence. That's a brand new organization. So I don't want to speak for Jacksonville yet, but they're young. They're very young. It's a brand new team. They've overhauled that roster. So I'd like to think it's going to at least take a year for them to figure some things out. They could jump right in, and Urban Meyer could take the league by storm in his first year, and they could be competing for something major. More likely than not, it's Indianapolis with Carson Wentz, and if he jumps into Indy's scheme and fits in seamlessly, they're going to be dangerous because they play top-notch defense. And it's going to be this Titans team, more likely than not. And they've been in the postseason the last 2 years. Ryan Tannehill has found himself a home. He's played really well. And now they've upgraded their offense tremendously with the addition of Julio Jones. So this is a big move. And I think that ultimately the Titans, they're the winners here because you're getting a first-round talent, even though he's toward the tail end of his career. I still think you're going to get 2-3 good years out of Julio Jones, more likely than not. You're getting a first-round talent for a second-round pick, essentially. Who wouldn't do that deal, right? Fat American, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Fat American writes. Anyone else feel like the Titans just look bigger and stronger than other teams? especially on offense. I don't know. Maybe he said if it's the uniforms or just me tripping. No, that's a big physical team. Period. I mean, A.J. Brown is a physical specimen. Okay, I mean there aren't many receivers in the league that look like him. Obviously, D.K. Metcalf. Remember, they were on the same team, if you can believe that. A.J. Brown, D.K. Metcalf. They were all on the same team, but they kind of look similar to one another. And they're big, physical, strapping wide receivers, 6'3", 6'4", you know. And we know about Julio and what he is as a 6'3", 6'4", 220 pounds physical specimen. So you're talking about a guy that's probably 6'4", 230, another one that's 6'4", 230, 225, 220, somewhere in that neighborhood. And then you got Derrick Henry that's probably every bit of 6'3", 6'4", 245, 250 pounds at running back. I mean, yeah, they look a lot bigger than everybody else on offense. So yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate. I don't think it has anything to do with the uniforms or the jerseys. That's a really big offense, and they're going to be tough to stop if they're healthy. So I think the Titans are the clear winners of this deal because for honestly, the Falcons, if they thought they had a chance to win, if they weren't strapped for cash, this isn't a deal that they would even consider making. Like, Julio Jones is worth more than a second-round pick to the Atlanta Falcons, period. But in the position that they're in, and because of where they are right now in their franchise, I don't think they feel like they're a player or two away from winning anything of note right now. And their cap situation is in dire straits again. As I just mentioned at the top of the show, they didn't even have enough money to sign their draft picks, which is asinine when you think about that. So now they can go ahead and begin the process of knocking out all of those draft picks that they made just a month ago or so and get the ball rolling with the rest of their offseason and prepare for training camp. They couldn't do that until this move was made because they didn't have the resources to be able to sign the draft picks that they just drafted. So this was, again, unnecessary evil for the Atlanta Falcons. I feel like they're on borrowed time, honestly. Matt Ryan getting up there in age. He's eating up a ton of their cap space, is Matt Ryan, an astronomical amount, which is probably more so what forced them to have to do this. Really what facilitated this is the amount of money Matt Ryan is making, which is it's insane. But that's the position they put themselves in when they signed the contract. They knew that this day would come. They didn't expect the salary cap to shrink the way that it did. No one could have prepared for COVID-19 and what it would do to the NFL cap. So when they signed Matt Ryan to that deal, they didn't expect it to come back to haunt them the way that it did. But here we are, and now this deal has been made. So again, we'll get the particulars of this deal down the road, whether it's a second and a fifth or a second and a swapping. Maybe the Falcons give up a fifth or a sixth, and the Titans give them a fifth. It could be something along those lines. But at the end of the day, it's done, essentially. And the Titans have gotten exponentially better. Leave your comments down in the comment section of this video. Let me know how you feel about this deal. We've been talking about Julio Jones being moved for the last 2.5 weeks now, and it finally came to fruition, and the Titans were the team to step up to the plate and make it happen. I told you don't discount them, but I didn't think they were going to be the ones. I'm not going to lie to you. I thought it was going to be somebody like Baltimore. I thought it was going to be potentially the New England Patriots, someone like that. Maybe even Seattle. Remember, we talked about Seattle as front runners, essentially. And I said I didn't think the Falcons would really be comfortable trading him in the conference. But again, stranger things have happened. So here we are, Tennessee Titans. They were interested all along. They get their man, and I think they are the prohibitive. If they weren't already going into this, they might have already been the prohibitive favorites to win the AFC South. After this move, I don't think there's any question that they are the leaders in the clubhouse in the AFC South, even with Carson Wentz going to the Indianapolis Colts. And if he can get back to what he was 3 seasons ago, that makes the Colts a dangerous football team. I still look at the Titans and I say, who's stopping that offense if they're healthy? That's the real question. Got another super chat to take us out of here. Double up. Fat American, thank you for doubling up. Greatly appreciate you. Fat American writes, their offense reminds me of a huge boulder rolling downhill. Once it starts moving, it's too heavy and too big to stop. they're a power offense. That's pretty much it right there. That sums up the Titans offense in a nutshell. I mean, if they get the run game going, then you feel the need to bring that safety up. You bring the safety up. I don't know if there are many quarterbacks in the league right now throwing the football down the field off play action fake that are better than Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill is throwing the football off of play action fake at an exceptional level right now. And it's only going to be aided by the presence of Julio Jones. So you're right. Once they get that ball rolling downhill and they get Derrick Henry going, and all of a sudden you get a little antsy and you decide, all right, I'm going to bring that safety up a little bit nosy around the line of scrimmage. They got Julio Jones. It used to be Khalif Raymond, and it used to be, A.J. Brown, and every now and again, not really Corey Davis, but every now and again, Corey Davis. Now it's A.J. Brown, and it's Julio Jones. That's scary. That's really, really scary. So, and I laughed, I joked, I kid about Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds is a quality third option. What he wasn't was a number 2, which is what the Titans were going to parade him out there as initially before this was done. Now that he's a third option, he's going to be outstanding for the Titans now. This is perfect for properly slotting. I say this all the time. When you've got a true number 1 wide receiver, you perfectly slot your other receivers. Guys are trying to be something that they're not when you don't have a true number 1. Number 2s are posing as 1s. Number 3s are posing as 2s. 4s are posing as 3s, so forth and so forth. With this addition of Julio Jones, now I think A.J. Brown is ascending as a legitimate number 1 receiver, but I think he's closer to the back end of the number 1, but right now one of the best 2s in the league. So now he's a 2, and now Josh Reynolds doesn't have to pose as a number 2 receiver. He can be what he's supposed to be, which is a number 3 option in this league. The Titans have completed their offense with this move, is what they've done. So they've got a chance, man. They've really got a chance. So somebody said, Zach Mango says, Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, and Derrick Henry is scarier than Julio Jones, Ridley, and Mike Davis. Yeah, but you wouldn't include Mike Davis. I get what you're doing, with the comparison because you threw in the backs there. But if you were still in Atlanta, you would throw Kyle Pitts in there. That's scarier than the combination that they have in Tennessee. But it's no here nor there. Bottom line is the Titans' offense is scary, period, with this addition. So that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me on this impromptu breaking news video. Julio Jones, now a Tennessee Titan. The specifics of the deal are still a little murky, but the foundation of this trade is a second-round pick, essentially. Titans will give up a second. They will get Julio Jones. There's another piece here that we are still trying to iron out, whether it's just a fifth-rounder in addition to the second from Tennessee to Atlanta, or is there going to be a swapping of late-round selections? Maybe the Falcons give up their a seventh and the Titans give up a sixth or something like that. We see these things happen all the time. So we'll figure out what the back end of the trade looks like. But we know what the basis of this trade, the foundation, if you will, of this trade is. It's Julio and it's a second rounder. Titans give up the second. Falcons give up Julio Jones. That's what we do know. And it's a big move, really, for both teams, but more so for the Titans, because tangibly we know what they're getting. For the Falcons, they just want the cap space, essentially. At this point, they'll take the draft capital. That helps, but it's the cap space. They need it. They have to have it. Like we need air. The Falcons need cap space, and this move is going to free a lot of it up for them. So that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Thank you guys once again for joining me on this Sunday afternoon. I'm going to get out of here. I don't want to keep you here longer than I need to. It is Sunday, and you got things to do. Playoff basketball is about to get underway, so I'm going to get out of the way so that you can get to your regularly scheduled programming. But I just want to encourage you to get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. For more NFL content, make sure you subscribe to the Louie T Network for more of this. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing, and hit the like button if you haven't already done so. I truly do appreciate you. With that said, You guys have a good one. Take care. See you next time.
Louie T Network.